Welcome to Koffee Talks, a Pokemon card collecting podcast, featuring David Person, owner of the world's most complete English Pokemon card collection, and Dan Norton, a longtime collector with all the knowledge behind the cards.
So Dan, did we talk earlier today by message or something like that?
We did. We talked. You said that you now wanted to start doing mini coffee talks, basically as a daily video, I think was your idea. You want to just talk for about 10, 15 minutes every day, have a very, very short upload about just what's been going on.
Yeah, so Dan, I did say that, and I don't know if I was really, I may have been off my meds at that point because the obligation to do that was really kind of crazy. But you know what I was thinking, Dan, at the time? I was thinking this. I was thinking that every single person's got to take on something in the hobby every single day. And there's video after video after video after video, and there's so much content, it's blowing the mind. And I thought to myself, why wouldn't my good friend Dan Norton and I be able to get in on the same thing? Because it's just a rehashing of all the same videos and all the same topics, but maybe we have a different take on it, right? I think the thing about us, Dan, which is a little bit different, and it's nice to see you, buddy. I haven't seen you on a video for about like 100 years. But I think the thing about us is we try to bring a little slant, a little different, idea to what we're doing, because we're not all the negativity. We are collectors. We do things a little different. We've got different goals in this whole thing, but yet there are things that still bother us immensely. And they bother me, Dan. Okay. And I went to the doctor this week, and I'm just going to talk here for a little bit. Thanks for listening. And she told me that I have 7,665 days left to live. And that really got me thinking, Dan. It got me thinking, like, are there things I need to get off my chest? And I thought, what better time to do that at the end of the night? And you know what? I didn't really want to do this at the end of the night. I want to do it the middle of the day or the top of the morning, and then have you, render and edit the video and do all this stuff so we could get out during the day and it'd be actually like, a timely kinds of information. But then you said to me, David, I'm so tired and I've got so much going on with the wife and the dogs and stuff that I can only do the editing and stuff in the middle of the night, and it would happen the next morning. But it got me thinking, but for me, Dan, that works for you and I'll make it work for me. You might see me when we get on here with no appearance whatsoever. I may not even show. I might just be like in a black screen. I may not even be dressed. I might be dressed for bed. I don't mean, dressed, but I mean, I might be dressed up for the podcast, just be in my pajamas. And I'm ready to go to bed, Dan, because that's what we're going to do. Is we'll try to do this every night, right? Right before I go to bed, I'm going to give you some of my thoughts for the day, and then you can comment on them. Does that make sense, Dan? Does that all work for you?
I mean, that will work for me. I can tell already from that opening speech there's no way these are going to stay to 10 minutes. But, yep, Dan, I'm happy with that.
Okay, I appreciate you saying this, but here's the thing, and I'm glad you brought that up. It has been defined that millennials have roughly an 8-second attention span. 8 seconds, an ad comes across.
Yeah, millennials also know how to turn their email notifications off when they're recording, just for reference.
Yeah, but I'm not a millennial.
Continue.
I'm not a millennial. I'm an old guy. I'm like a Gen H, IYQ OG guy. So the thing is, Dan, I am going to skip this 10 minutes because the thing I've learned in my time in being in business and being in, in industry and being a speaker and stuff is that you always want to leave them wanting a little bit more. And if we have the confidence we're going to be able to do this every night, Dan, then we can just pick up a topic from where we left off, or we can find a better topic for the next day. So yeah, I may talk fast, get some stuff off my chest, but we're going to do this 10 minutes, 10, 12 minutes, 15 minutes at the most. We're not going any longer. I'm going to cut it off. It's going to be a hard stop, and we're going to have to deal with the ramifications, whatever they are, okay? Now, for those of you watching, thanks for listening to me. I can be a little hyper at times depending on how much food I have in my system. But I do want to say the following. It's important to comment on whatever the heck we're talking about. If you don't comment on it, what is going on here? Turn off the ringer at least, Dan. Come on, it's ridiculous. I might act like I'm important. It doesn't matter. Nothing's that important. Here, guys, if you don't comment and nothing is important to you guys and nothing makes any sense, you don't want to put any input into the discussion, there's no reason for us to do this. So please put some comments out there. Make it real controversial, and that way I can throw Dan under the bus when I give you some stuff. Okay, Dan, are you ready for me to roll off on tonight's topic?
Sure. Go ahead.
Dan, I want to talk about scalping. I want to talk about this word scalping. I don't know what to do with it, okay? I don't know what to do with the word scalping. I'll give you an example real quick. A little story that happened here in my Vegas Facebook group that I happen to be a part of. So I go on my Vegas Facebook group, and I bought some Prismatic Evolutions ETBs, and I had paid somewhere about $100 a piece for them because that's what I get them for. Uncle Dave don't get them no cheaper, guys. Uncle Dave got no distribution situation. He don't even get them what Uncle Dan gets them for over at his local store because he's got, contacts and he knows somebody and he buys all the time. I don't buy from anybody. Nobody knows me. I bought some ETBs. I thought it'd be a good investment. But by the same token, I'm waiting for some other things to come in, and I decided to buy a few more. So I had them extra, and I put them in the Facebook group at $126, okay? I got ripped over the coals. I couldn't believe. I said, you know what, guys, if I can help you guys out, I have the boxes here. I'll make a $20 profit on them. I paid $106. Here's where they are. Here's the reality. People laughed. People cried. People threatened me. I think there were some bad words written on the fence outside. It has been an absolute. I basically went under a stone and I hid. Okay, and if you remember the old song "Puff the Magic Dragon," here's what happened in that song. Okay, Jackie Paper, he didn't come to visit Puff no more, and he just crawled right back at his thing and he humbly died. So that's what I felt like doing, because you know what? There's nothing you could do when everybody thinks the scalper is a scalper and they've got their own definitions, whatever. Dan, let me go on. Okay, today the Pokemon Center was rumored to have a drop, and all of a sudden they have a thing now. They've got this waiting queue, right? And you know what I think about the Pokemon Center. What do I think about the Pokemon Center website, Dan?
That it sucks because it does, and they don't have good customer service, and they ban people for being bots who aren't bots, and they let actual bots through.
Then it's the worst thing in the world, okay? And all I want to do is participate. Even me, okay? I've got the number one collection in the world. Who cares? Whatever, blah, blah, blah. Don't even care. I want to participate. I want to feel like I can be a part of the hobby. And I want to buy one, whatever it is, Prismatic ETB. I want to buy one ultra premium collection. I want to buy one box of Journey Together. I can buy nothing. I can't get through the site at all. And so I feel, and I've told you this on our Coffee Talks for many times over the last several years, whatever, that it's the most frustrating thing in the world to me. It is the most frustrating thing not to be able to just participate, just get one. And that's the same frustration everyone in the hobby is feeling right now, whether or not they're going to Target, they're going to Walmart, they're going to anywhere. They just want to buy something at a reasonable cost instead of getting double, triple inflated. And they're figuring out that they can't do that because there's not enough supply. And they're yelling at everybody who's going out and buying those and then selling them for a higher price. Okay, that's the concept of this scalping you're hearing about. So my frustration today was, okay, they've got this new thing at a Pokemon Center. You're in the waiting queue. They give you a screen. They say you're waiting, and there might not be anything to buy when you get there, but we're trying to make it easier for you in your shopping experience. And somebody took that screen and they put it on a Facebook group, and it's pretty funny. And they said, hey, thank you for waiting for nothing. You terrible scalper, human being, whatever. Well, I didn't agree with the concept of them calling people a scalper, because a lot of people are out there just waiting, like you and I probably did today, seeing if there was any chance to get in because there was a rumor drop. Nothing happened. I couldn't get in or anything. But I wish they'd have said something like this. Thank you for waiting. Please be aware you're going to get nothing. There's waste of time if you're waiting. And unless you happen to be one of the lucky 1 out of 10,000 or 20,000 or 100,000, you're going to be very disappointed. So this whole concept of bots, and people really, I think they understand that, or just when people program computers to get extra slots in entry or chances to buy something, there is no reason that the Pokemon brand is going to do anything with them continuing to be what they've done and be as hot as they am, despite all the controversy that you'll see in all the videos. We're going to talk about it in subsequent days, distribution and all the stuff that's going on, not producing enough supply, vendors and distributors charging too much to their distributors, to their vendors, et cetera, et cetera. We'll go over it. But the frustration comes in that there's no corporate thinking by the Pokemon brand to say, hey, let's do this. Let's reach out to people. Let's have them all list themselves as being interested, and we'll go out there and we'll spend the extra shipping and we'll spend the extra. Somebody just wants one, but we'll reach out. Instead of letting people reach into us, we'll reach out to them because you're on a list. And if we have to go lottery, we have to go lottery, but at least everybody has some kind of fancy chance. Funny thing, they actually do that if you think about it for the World Championships entries when you want to go to the tournament coming up. Where's the tournament this year, Dan? Is it in Anaheim or San Diego or something?
Yeah, it's Anaheim this year. I applied for a content creator pass and got denied within about 30 minutes, so I'm waiting on the lottery.
Okay,
to see if I can get a regular pass.
Yeah, and I mean, again, things are very expensive there, and I'm not sure why, and I'm not sure what the whole game plan is there. Something else we can talk about in the future. But at this point in time, frustration. And so I just want to ask the folks that are watching, and you'll comment, hopefully, and we'll talk about it tomorrow night. What is it that makes someone a scalper? When is it okay? Because what's happening is everybody's frustrated, and they're taking their frustrations out on somebody who got luckier than them and who has a chance to buy something, and then they go ahead and they want to resell it for a higher price. Isn't that exactly what this whole capitalism in this country was built on? I'm not saying I agree with it or don't agree with it. I'm saying it's deadly frustrating. There's no question about it. But if I wanted to buy some Prismatic Evolution trainer boxes, ETBs, Elite Trainer boxes, because I thought, I don't open stuff. You guys know that, all right? So I actually bought some for investment, thinking that $100 was going to be a decent price when I wake up a year from now or 2 years from now. Am I not allowed to sell that if I change my mind? If I sell that, but it goes up in a year from now and I do it then, is that not scalping because I waited a certain amount of time? Is it the fact that, okay, you've got some content creators, I'm going to try not to name names, I don't want to get everybody mad at me or whatever, but one of the bigger content creators who focuses on the negative aspects of the hobby said the following. He said, You are not a collector if you are collecting only 151 surging sparks and prismatic evolutions. Really, what if you're brand new? What if you're a brand new collector and that's where you're starting in this hobby? Okay. I think those are just valid collectors as well. I don't think that there's anything to be said that you can make blanket statements and go ahead and blame the world for everything that's frustrating everybody. So, how long do you have to hold something? When can you sell it? When don't you sell it? When is it okay to take your own hard earned money and put something away for investment later? But if you do that, because I believe, let's say that the market's not going to come down on this stuff, but all the content creators are telling all you guys, it's going to come down, it's going to come down. Just wait, 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 wait. Prismatic evolution is going to be $50 a box, it's going to be $60 a box, it's going to be $70 a box. What if I believe it's never going to be under 100 again? So I already put some away at 100 because I believe it's going to be 200 a year from now. Well, you guys would say, if you understand my point, you'd say that makes sense, David. If you don't understand my point, you say you're just a part of the problem. You're an evil, terrible scalper who deserves to be, cut up and thrown into the meat grinder. So I don't know where you win, right? If I don't have to believe what they say it's going to come down and I believe it's going to go up, why wouldn't I want to tuck some away for an investment if I think this is the greatest looking set that I've seen since the beginning of time? For a lot of different reasons, which Dan and I could talk about when I let him talk sometime. But on a time limit like this, I got to just shut up. So Dan, do you have any comments to anything I said? I want to introduce the idea. I want to introduce and acknowledge everybody's frustration. I want to acknowledge how I'm the same way. I have no advantages over any of you guys. The guys that go wait in target lines and do all that stuff are buying stuff half the price I'm buying it for. And yet I'm still not afraid to buy a few things at a certain higher price because I think it's going to be a good investment later. And eventually, as you guys know, I'll just go buy the set, hopefully, if I can buy it at a reasonable enough cost, despite the terrible allocation and distribution of cards in the set for prismatic evolutions, which we're talking about. Dan?
Well, I have a couple of thoughts on it. First of all, one of the bigger Facebook groups in Columbus for Pokemon has actually put a ban on selling sealed product above MSRP for the first 2 weeks after a product releases, because they were getting so many complaints about people just using the group they were buying stuff and immediately reselling it. So they've said when the prismatic bundles dropped, for the first 2 weeks, if you were selling prismatic bundles, you had to sell them at MSRP. After the 2 weeks, you can put them at whatever price you wanted. You can do them at market. But to kind of cut down on that thing, they've put that in. But in the topic of scalpers or resellers as a whole, honestly, it's so much lower of a problem than people actually think it is, because people seem to, so many people, you see this in all of the groups and a lot of the chatter, people don't seem to totally understand that there are just more collectors now. There are just way more collectors than there were. We're on a huge rise again. Since Surging Sparks came out, we've been on a big rise where a lot more people are just genuinely interested in collecting Pokemon. And that's contributing to these products selling out way more than the resellers. It's just that whenever you see videos going around online, it's you see the resellers all punching and fighting each other to get the last couple of products. Those are people who are resellers, but those are a tiny part of the people who are actually buying this stuff. They're just what you see. Those are the clips that go viral. There's no viral clip of a lot of collectors standing together in Target and talking about how they're all excited to open packs and then just calmly buying one thing each, But it's also, there's a huge issue, I think, in Pokemon collecting as a whole with main character syndrome, which is where people focus fully on themselves and people have this idea of, I'm the only true collector. I'm doing the collecting. No one else can be doing collecting. You will literally see people posting photos where they're in line at Target waiting for this stuff to be put on the shelf, and they'll take a photo of the 5 people in front of them and say, oh, glad I made it to this line so that I can get one of these because of all these scalpers in front of me. You're no different from them. You're still a person in the queue. You're still the person who's shown up to get this. It's like the thing of, oh, there are 10 of us here at 8 a.m. Glad I'm here so I can get something for my collection, and it's these other 9 scalpers. Oh, they're all horrible people. You don't know them. You don't know these people. All of them could be other collectors. I mean, yeah, statistically, probably 1 or 2 of them are trying to get stuff to resell, but there is a good chance that the people who are there with you are there for the same reason that you are, and it's not just you are the one pure collector and everyone else is just there to resell product.
Yeah, and let me just, what I want to say is I don't, the only thing I didn't agree with what you said is that I don't think it's necessarily the case that the viral videos are of scalpers, trying to kill each other, because it can also be the same thing. I just want to buy something for my son or my daughter or my family or for myself. And I seem to have to fight somebody because, okay, they're buying too many of this or they don't want to share. I mean, it really, I don't know where you come down to some kind of fundamental rules of engagement for folks. We're limiting to one to this. I'm not sure it's great. There's so many people that are well intended. They write out in the Facebook groups. They put out there was a video last night that somebody said, oh, I think there's going to be a drop at the Pokemon Center today. I don't know if that's helping anybody to say this, that stores are there. There's something there. They're stocked, because there's so few people that get what's there. And a lot of the other people get even more frustrated. But I do want to tell something, because I'm not sure people are really aware of this, Dan. I happen to have an insight to this a little bit. And so this is the other part, which you talk about as far as there are a lot being more collectors. There being a lot more collectors. I agree. But there's also a lot more of the whatnot online type of sellers, eBay Live and TikTok Live and all the rest of it. People, I don't know if you folks understand, there are pallets and pallets of this stuff, that when you see somebody out there and he's saying, I won't name a name, but there's a Facebook group. I think it's what, Verbank or something. There's always a seller out there, and he's just continuously pushed up. I want to buy 100 prismatic ETBs at $100 a box. Then it was $105. Then it was $110. If you sell me more, I'll sell even more. He's up to $122 a box now. Folks, all of that stuff that he's buying is going to some kind of whatnot or online or streaming folks, and it just flies out. Because again, in that environment, I'm not talking about the platform. I'm not talking about if it's good or bad. I'm not talking about all the content creators that say you should never go on there. But there's some people that enjoy that, just like, I wouldn't go to a gambling casino because I think it's a waste of my money and I'm going to ultimately lose. There's some people that love the gambling casino. So the idea here is that a lot of this product is getting shuffled over there very quickly. And now you're sitting out there and you're waiting in hopes of a reprint down the road. And there are going to be collectors that come in that haven't had a chance to buy that ETB for their own collection. As you say, Dan, it's always more collectible than the booster bundles, which are more openable for a lot of people. But a lot of these, product is getting to that area that didn't exist 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 years ago for sure, which is taking a huge chunk of the product off the market very quickly. And you've seen it already. I think so we go back to my little story, buy the boxes at 106, offer them at 126. Everybody laughed me out of the thing. I just put the post away and walked away. I was actually trying to help people that might want to get a box open and not make that much money on it. And here's what happens. And I'm not trying to call myself somebody great to help, because I'm part of the problem for folks that think that I shouldn't have even bought in the beginning. So now you see people out there in, TCG Player or eBay, and these boxes are around 150 now, because they're so quick that they end up going off the market. And especially people that break them up in packs, which you don't see as often, because now with the booster bundles out there until they get off the market more, and that EV promo inside. So, but I'm interested. It's really important to me, because I do want to close this up real quick. I do want to hear from everybody. There are folks these days that they want what they want when they want it. And I guess when you've lived to my age, which you guys hear me say every video, 63 years, you can see it in the gray hair. And I'm not coloring for you guys now. Dan and I are doing this. His real hair, my real hair. Dan, less pink this time around. And you learn through frustration. You learn through the experiences. I am as frustrated as anybody, but I can sit out there and not participate, or I can go with the flow. And it's no different, folks. Hey guys, do you want to buy an ETB at whatever it is because you hope it's going to go up and that's an investment for you? Or do you want to go buy some NVIDIA stock because it's down 25 or 30% from its high, and you think artificial intelligence is the greatest thing in the world coming up? Same thing for all the Magnificent Seven stocks in the stock market. I don't think people should be criticizing what people do with their money if they're buying for investment. If you guys don't realize, I've actually bought for my collection and for investment through all the years. I'll buy something for the collection and put a couple boxes away for investment. And then this year I ended up selling quite a bit of this stuff. So I think you can do both. I think it's okay, but I don't have the answers, and nor do I claim to be. And I'm not Mr. Opinionated like a lot of these folks in content creation are. I do think that Pokemon and Pokemon Center should do more to reach out to folks instead of have them reach in, whatever it takes to be cognizant and empathetic to the frustrations that are out here, because you're going to drop off a lot of folks who really don't want to collect because it is too expensive. And someone like me who says, hey, what did I just pay? I just got some Journey Together boxes just to put away because I hopefully aren't going to build a set, but I always put them there first in case I have to build a set. And I think I paid $210 a box from a reputable seller and just put them away because I can't get them any cheaper, guys. And I can just sit there and hope, and I can agree with the folks that say they're going to come to 150 for sure. They might come to 150 for sure, but then 2 years from now, they might be 300 as well. Nobody knows. So, if you want to participate, a little bit of box here, box there, should you be labeled? How long do you have to hold? Everybody's beating everybody up, and it's ruining for a lot of us the good feelings of the hobby, especially because all the content creators are focused on the negative and not on just enjoying the hope to open something. And one last story about that. I mean, you talk about how, and I'll let you finish this off. So my son-in-law, he bought some. He's never owned a Pokemon card, and he's, gosh, I don't know, 47 years old. Can you imagine never buying anything, but he's watching people getting in fights online, and I got to get some of this. That's what the hype does. That's when it's just too much hype and too much craziness. And so he went out on his own without ever asking me anything about anything, and he just bought a box of Prismatic Evolutions. He bought an ETB. This was like a month or two ago, so he paid like 110 or something for the box. And he said, "Can I come over and open it?" Darned, I don't open anything, guys, because I have the worst luck in the world, and I don't want to gamble. I'm not a gambler. So darned if he didn't open that ETB and pull out the Umbreon that was whatever his $1,400 card. So you know what? And now you're hooked and you want to do some more. So it's not like the pulls can't be great. It's not like people can't have fun. It's not like it's not worth it for some people. I do think you should kind of know what you're doing a little bit, but it's real tough when people are getting bashed over the head by folks that are just invariably calling them scalpers. And so I thought it's really important for us to be able to talk about that. Dan?
Yeah, to finish off, a couple of things. I think generally, from what I've seen when people are complaining about this stuff, people's cutoff line is when a set is fully out of print. That's when they, just in people's heads, that's when it flips from being a scalper reseller to, oh, I invested in this and now I'm selling it. Literally when you see something where it's like, oh, this product released this morning and this person already has it on Verbank for triple the price, that's when people are like, oh, this is a scalper reseller flip or whatever. But then if it's, a booster box of Evolving Skies, Sword and Shield era, that's well out of print. People are selling those now. Those are at $1,300 a box. That box was still, MSRP was $100 when it came out. I don't know if you could get it for $100 because it was low print pandemic times, but that box was still $200-300 for a long time. But no one has a problem with that being sold now for $1,300 because the set's out of print. That's where people's line is. I also find it weird that people's idea of why they don't like this is the whole idea of, oh, you bought this, but you don't want it. I wanted it, and I can't buy it for that price because you feel like you want to make some profit. You've inserted yourself as a middleman that didn't need to be there. If you were just out of this equation, I could have gone to Target and I could have bought this for myself for the retail price. You just got there before me, and now you've decided you need this extra money to then sell it to me. You've bought this thing that you don't want. But people only apply that to sealed product. There are people who go out there, they'll buy the ETBs, open them, and then any hit that they get, any expensive card, they'll also immediately list for market price. To me, that is the same. It's, you've bought this, you clearly don't want the good cards from it because you're selling them as soon as you get anything good. So why is that different to reselling the bundle? But people just do not view it as the same. I honestly think that if I went out and bought 10 bundles and sold them the same day for 10 times the price, people are going to rake me over the coals. But if I go buy 10 bundles, open them, and then sell every card from them, people are like, yeah, it's fine. But it's still me buying something I don't want in order to make more money from people.
So Dan, what folks don't know is everything just went dead, and then we just corrected up, and you just edited it out later, and you're so good at doing that, so I appreciate it. So I have a couple things to say, just closing points. Number one, thank you for indulging me. Thank you for letting me speak as quickly as I could. I have failed miserably in my attempt to get into about a 10-minute window, but that's what life is about. You fail, and if you fail fast, you don't commit the same mistakes over and over again. And so we will pick this up in other subjects, hopefully tomorrow. And I will talk even faster or slower about less topics because sometimes speed doesn't mean a hill of beans. if you're talking about too many things. But thank you for indulging me, Dan. I do want to say something. When we got cut off at the end, we were talking about something, and you were talking about, the idea of products, and it made me think about, lines and reselling and breaking them open and selling the singles and stuff versus how people judge one or the other. I call those logical inconsistencies in the arguments that people are making. But it made me think of the words limited edition, Dan, and that's the thing. I think when we talk about, a lot of people compare the cards to sneakerheads, and you hear, well, people buy the shoes and they sell them for double and triple when their limited edition drops. And that's what's happening here. It's almost like what's happening is these cards are becoming limited edition, although we don't know how much of a limited edition because we don't know how many reprints they're going to be until later. And that's the unknown piece of it. But limited edition stuff, nobody really balks at it. They say, oh my goodness, my son tells my wife to wake up at 7 a.m. and go on the Nike website, and hopefully she'll pick up some Jordan shoes on a drop that you have just a 1 in 1,000 chance at. And she gets the pair of shoes. And so now what is it? We're not selling them, but if we did go and sell them or whatever, so you could take that $200 pair of shoes and sell it for $400 because it's limited edition. If they come out with a Tiffany's Pokemon collaboration and those things sell out immediately, now you can put them out there, limited edition. So that's what's happening with the Pokemon cards, unfortunately, because they're not printing enough. And there's so many people taking those cards and moving so many different directions with them, between reselling, between opening on the streams, between trying to collect them themselves, put away stuff for sealed collectors. All of it becomes the more limited edition until enough is out there to fulfill the demand. So, and then last but not least is just my comments from the very beginning. I guess I'm a horrible, horrible scalper, and I should be, just the cane, the bamboo canes all over me. So, because I bought those boxes at $106 and I offered them in the local community for $126. Now they're $150 to go buy a box somewhere, roughly, give or take. And so I wonder if I put it out there now and I said, hey, I've got these still at $126. Are people going to, still berate me? Or are they going to come and say, you know what, David, I'd love to have that for you since it's $25 less than market. But nobody knew that at the time. And I don't know if I'd ever take the chance of putting it out there just because I'm not the type of guy that likes to get berated. There are people that are fight like cats and dogs in those forums. That's not me. You know me, everybody that knows Uncle Dave. I don't like to fight with anybody. So I like to just get along and go the way of Puff the Magic Dragon back into my little hole. If everybody thinks I'm a terrible person, that doesn't work for me. So Dan, your final thoughts. Thank you for everybody for listening. I'm going to shut up after this, let Dan close it down. I hope you enjoy these. I think we're going to have a lot to talk about because I barely could sleep at night. I'm tossing and turning with all the thoughts I have going on in this hobby right now. And I appreciate Dan indulging me and getting it out there for all of you. Dan?
Yeah, hopefully people do enjoy these because I think people have been clamoring for Coffee Talks back in one form or another. I get a lot of comments about them. We might still, again, do some longer form ones, especially if we try and do some of the interview episodes like we've done before. If we interview someone, we're not just going to interview them for 10 minutes. If we do an interview episode, we'll probably do a much longer one like the old ones. But I have had people comment as well saying they'd like to be interviewed. So maybe once we get a couple of weeks of these under our belt, then we'll go back to that. I will say as well, even if we're doing this every day, this isn't going to be the only thing I'm doing on the channel. I'm still going to do my videos as well. So if you like Coffee Talks, stick around for this. If you like stuff that isn't Coffee Talks, it isn't going anywhere. I'm not going to be making less videos because of this. Yep, that is about it. Again, hopefully you all enjoyed, and me and Dave will hopefully see you tomorrow.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Coffee Talks with Dan Norton and David Person, with music by More Than Never and artwork by Lore Norton. A special thanks to all of our Patreon members. Join us again next time.
But they don't want you to have a